This is part 2 of lesson number 5. If you haven't already watched part 1, please click on the card at the top of your screen right now. You need to see that before watching part 2. Thank you very much. Now my point is, this is the physical and this is the scene. Now God is teaching us here. See, that's the first 10 verses of Ezekiel 28. Now we go to the next 10 or next 9 verses and to the spiritual and the unseen. And he says, moreover, the word of the Lord came to me, saying, Son of man, take up a lamentation for the king of Tyre, and say to him, Thus says the Lord God. Now, the first one was Prince of Tyre. Now this is King of Tyre. That's interesting. But here we go. You were the seal of perfection, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. You were in Eden. Now, that doesn't sound right. Let's look a little bit deeper. You were beautiful. He had all these precious stones, etc. And it carries on. And here we get the essence of the story. This is talking about the unfallen Lucifer, the angel right there at the Shekinah glory, the covering cherub. You were the anointed cherub who covers. I established you. You were on the holy mountain of God. This is the government of God. You walked back and forth in the midst of the fiery stones. This is right at the throne of God. This is clearly now not talking about this guy just next to Israel anymore. This is now talking about Satan or Lucifer at this point. This is talking about the spiritual. You were perfect in your ways from the day you were created till iniquity was found in you. By the abundance of your trading, your heart was lifted up because of your beauty. And at the bottom, by the iniquity of your trading, I'm just summarizing here, and you shall be no more forever. In those verses, it also talks about him just being destroyed by fire. So you shall be no more forever. That's a similar end to the king of Tyre. So let's have a look and compare these two passages now, the first 10 and the next 9 verses. And we can see that there's a complete parallel. Isn't that interesting that we're following the same? There's like a reflection going on here. The only difference is really a few minor details, that the king of Tyre became proud because of wealth, and Lucifer became prideful because of his beauty. They both coveted or wanted a divine throne as a god. Satan coveted the throne of God, right? And the king of Tyre amassed wealth, which meant he was focusing on himself. He wasn't giving it all away, right? And helping the nations around and helping the poor. He was amassing wealth, which is self-focused, just like Satan is self-focused. But they both will be destroyed. But look at this. The trade. Remember, when we do Bible study, we always want to look for what is repeated, because that's important. And so in the passage we're speaking about Satan, trading is mentioned twice. But with it, it mentions that you are filled with violence and by the iniquity of your trading. Iniquity is wickedness. By the wickedness of your trading. So that is interesting. What is wicked about trading and what is violent about trading? We need to investigate that a little bit more. So why is this all relevant? Remember, we are trying to find out what happened in heaven and how did Satan think that he was going to overthrow God? What was his methodology? That's what we're trying to investigate. Well, what we do know in lesson number 3 was how Satan deceived Eve. How he got Eve to change her allegiance from God to him. And he was like a wedge between God and Eve, God and the woman. He came in there as a wedge in between them, and he broke that allegiance and changed her allegiance to him. And by that, she worshipped him and switched her allegiance, right? I'm not going to go through all of this. We've done it already. But here's the summary. Satan cunningly contradicts the plain word of God. This is his methodology there in Eden. He attacked the integrity of God, remember? He said, no, you won't die. God's lying to you, basically, right? God cannot be trusted. Oh, and he hasn't really given you freedom, has he? Has he told you that you can eat of every tree? Focusing on the restriction. But God's law is there to protect us. That's the whole idea. God's law is there to protect us from harm. It's like you have kids, you tell them don't run and play in the street. This is why God knew that if they eat of that fruit, they would lose connection with Him, the life giver, the Creator, and they would die. This is the truth. So God's laws are not arbitrary. They are there for our own good. But He got her to resist and to rebel against God's law and therefore His government. The result was the breakdown in trust, and when there's a breakdown in trust, there's a breakdown in the relationship. So he got division. He got in between there. This is the mind of Satan. This is the venom of the devil. This is it, right here. It's the core. So going here again, you shall surely die. Satan says, no, you shall not surely die. She's now thinking about this. The seed is planted, and then it germinates, and it grows in her head until she buys it. You see that? This is the trading, friends. This is the essence of this whole lesson today, is the trading of Satan. What was this trading? It was trading lies. It was trading his venom. It was trading his mindset. She was trading accusations against God, accusations against God's law, that God is restrictive and that you can't keep God's law, and God's law is there to take away all your fun and your freedom. God doesn't give you freedom, and you can't trust God, and He's actually all about Himself. He wants to keep to Himself that knowledge of good and evil. He doesn't want to share it with you. Can you see how cunning and deceptive and evil this is? And so this is the trading that we're looking at here. And isn't that the truth though? Isn't that exactly what happens? And when we take in that mindset of Satan, we become selfish ourselves, we become egotistical, and we want to set ourselves up as a god. This is why you see all the evil in the world, is because this venom takes root and just grows and grows, and you just let that go down the road, just give it enough time, and tyranny develops. And you don't have to be a Hitler or a Mussolini, but you can be still a terrible person. I can be a terrible person if I allow this venom to continue in my life. Just give it enough time and we will do the evil things we never thought we would do. But it just starts with that seed being accepted in our minds. This is the nature that we've inherited from Adam and Eve. So can you see now the scene? This is the physical. God shows us the king of Tyre on earth, and it's a parallel of the unseen. We see now what happened in the fall of Lucifer. However, of course, the unseen and the spiritual happened first, and on earth is a reflection of what happened on heaven. But still, God gives us the parallels so we can see the unseen. Does that make sense? So here we have it. We have the seen, the fall of the king of Tyre, the steps that he went through, and we can see then Lucifer and the steps that he went through in the heavenly realm. Now, here's the deal. We're trying to establish how Satan thought he was going to overthrow God. We're trying to establish what happened in the heavenly courts and how war happened in heaven. And so we look at the scene, because that's all we have, and we see how Satan worked by causing division between man and God, and therefore, by conclusion, we can see what happened between the angels and God. That Satan was there deceiving them, selling the same lies, and gaining their loyalty to him, and breaking down the allegiance and trust between the angels and God. We know how Satan got between man and God by affecting man. God didn't change, man changed. Man accepted the lies about God and then divided from God. And so we can extrapolate and say, okay, that's the method that worked with the angels, therefore he brought it down onto this planet, and it worked with Eve as well, because he knew this system works. Does that make sense? So this is what he must have done up in heaven. His trading was selling the lies about God. Satan was pointing at God and saying, I am there at the throne of God. I can see stuff you can't see. I get privy and I see things and I hear things that you don't hear and see. And let me tell you, it's not what you think it is. And he starts attacking the integrity of God, that God's not really on your side. You can't really trust God. God's lying to us, and really, he hasn't really given us freedom. God's law is there and it's restriction. If I was in power, I would give you total freedom. Do what you will. Do what thou wilt. All right? This is what he was promising them. If you put me on that throne there, things will be much better for you. I'll give you true freedom. God's not giving you true freedom. These were the things that he must have been saying. And so some of those minds accepted the seed and joined in the rebellion. Others, and you can see at the back there, they're wondering about this. Some of them didn't join him, and others possibly are still wondering about this. Now, division comes from Satan. Proverbs is loaded with wisdom, right? 6 things the Lord hates. These 6 things. Yes, 7 are an abomination to him. Look at these in order. A proud look. When we become prideful, we start to lie. And then we go to the next step. We become violent. Isn't that the steps that Satan followed? Number 4, a heart that devises wicked plans, feet that are swift to run to evil, a false witness who speaks lies. That's exactly Satan to the core as well. Lying, a false witness about the character of God. And one who sows discord among the brethren. Man, he says the 7th, no, that's an abomination to God. I don't know if it is the 7th or all 7. God hates all 7 of them. However, the one that sows discord among the brethren, that is the venom of the devil. That's the heart of the devil. And so now we get clarity as to the abundance of your trading. You became filled with violence. This trading and these accusations eventually become open argument and eventually comes into violent opposition. Is gossip innocent? You know, it starts as a seemingly innocent difference of opinion or an insinuation, a dig at someone's character while they're not there. We make subtle insinuations and cast doubt over God's character or the character of another person. Hopefully we don't do that. Then it becomes less subtle and blatant. Then it comes out in the open. Then it becomes an issue of contention, becomes strong division and argument. Then it breaks out into the people around us, and then people are polarized. They have to side with the one or they side with the other, right? And then it causes division amongst families, races, groups, companies, churches, wherever. And it breaks out then into violence. And it's all fueled by pride, which is put there in the heart by Satan. I'm sorry to interrupt this lesson, but in order to keep the lesson sizes around about 10 minutes or so, this lesson will be continued on the next video.